Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. This video is all about putting your pepper beds, containers, wherever you're growing them, to rest. Really basically putting in fertilizer, compost in November, December, let them sleep, and then we'll get to planting come the spring. Now, these are sunken containers. The bottoms are cut out so the plant roots can grow into the ground. I use these just as kind of like raised beds, and I can concentrate all the resources right in the containers. There are 19 here. I put 2 plants in each of them, and you can see by the plants that have died back from the frost that they did really, really well. So in this one row, I can grow 38 pepper plants. They take a lot of nutrients out of the soil. So I am gonna set these up. First thing I'll do is I'll remove the plants, and then I'll show you how I use any all-purpose organic fertilizer. NP or K, however it's represented, whatever's on sale, you wanna use that. I blend my own together using discounted products. I'll link the video to show you how I do that. And then I'm gonna use bone meal to increase the phosphorus. That's right down there. That helps with the pepper production, pepper development, and all that. When we get to the spring, if you want to subscribe, I'll be showing you how I fertilize these in the spring. Nitrogen in the beginning, you cut back the nitrogen once the plants are maybe 2 feet tall, and you don't overdo the nitrogen because you don't want a lot of leaf growth. You want the peppers to develop, you want the flowers to develop. The phosphorus will help with that. You can also use the principles that I'm going to show you today for any basic raised bed or a container, and I'll talk about how you do that. But simple. Handful of all-purpose fertilizer into a space about that big. If you were going to use this space, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4 handfuls of the organic granular, and then you'll put the bone meal in. And maybe I'll probably end up doing 1 handful, but it only really needs half of a handful. And then in a space like this, 2 or 3 handfuls of the bone meal. That's to bring in the phosphorus. You can't really overdo it, but we're putting in those organic fertilizers now in the end of November, actually. Tomorrow's December. So that these organic fertilizers will sit in here, they will break down come spring. This space is really ready for planting, and then you're good to go. All right, let me clear these out. We'll go through the steps. I've cleared out 6 containers. Just pulled out the plants, got rid of some of the weeds. You don't need to be perfect. These are going to sit here for 4 or 5 months here in Maryland Zone 7 before the peppers go in. You got plenty of time to weed everything out come spring. Once the organic granular, the basic organic granular that has NP and K is thrown in, we're going to use bone meal, which actually has 17% phosphorus in there. That's going to increase the phosphorus. I'll throw down either leaves that I just cut and chop up today, actually, maybe some compost, manure, whatever. You want to just put on 1 or 2 inches of any organic matter that you have on hand and let it sit there for 4 or 5 months. So first thing, again, this is the organic granular. Any brand works. It's basically the same ingredients. And I take 1 big handful and I sprinkle it in. If you're doing this to containers, again, the bottoms are cut out of here. Just, 1 handful, about that much space. So if your container is twice as big, use 2 handfuls. You can't really overdo it. We're not going to mix it into the soil. We'll just let it sit here for 4 or 5 months. Let rain, soil microbiology, all that kind of stuff do its thing. And come spring, we'll weed this out. We'll mix in the leaves, the manure, or the compost that we put down, and we'll just have a great planting space for the peppers. Now, you could stop there. I mean, if you're on a budget, that's perfectly fine. Your peppers are going to still grow even if you don't use the bone meal. I take about this much, not quite a full handful. It's really finely processed, so it's really powdery. And that's the addition of bone meal to there. And I would go down and do, all 7 of them, just like that. In this space, this is 4 feet by 4 feet, basic raised bed. 1 big handful right there. And that's corners, not quite as small as the containers I just did. But the idea is really the principles. You don't have to be perfect. All your organic granulars, in fact that's 4, maybe I want to put in 5. The organic granulars vary in NP and K. You're not looking for perfection. Just get that stuff in there. handful of bone meal right there. You see how dusty it is. Handful right over there. And then I'll do my third, and this is actually probably half of a handful. But that will set up the bed for peppers. Lots of different plants also, but I'm doing this for peppers. These are set up for peppers. Now I'm going to use a manure, an animal manure that's not fully broken down, and I'm going to put it in the top here. That's because I have 4 months for that manure to continue to break down. If you were going to plant right into this, you really want to use fully composted materials. That's more about the spring. But if you have 3, 4, 5 months where your organic matter can sit on top of here, you can put down whatever you want. It will break down. It will be ready for the spring. Let me get the manures. That's about 1 or 2 inches of animal manure on top of there. This is cow manure, not fully broken down. Again, that's perfectly fine because it's winter. These beds are going to rest, so to speak. Bone meal, granular fertilizer just sits on top. Organic matter on that, let it go for that 4 or 5 months. I'll mix it all in come spring. This bed here, I'm just going to leave just like this. When I cut some leaves today, when I chop them up with the mower actually, I'm going to put leaves on top of here, and that's going to be my organic matter. But this is just a quick, basic way to set up your pepper beds, be it sunken containers, regular containers, raised beds, whatever. This works really, really well. And these aren't exact measurements. These are just principles. Please follow the principles. Perfect way to do it. You can also add, there's a product called triple superphosphate. That's a 0,45,0, very high in phosphorus. This is potash. This is a 0,060, very high in potassium. These could be organic. It depends on how they're sourced, what kind of rocks they're coming from, how they're pulling them out of the ocean. That's all on you to decide if you want to use, organic, not organic, somewhere in the middle, organic, whatever. But using these products aren't going to harm you. They're not going to harm your plants. The reason I want to show you this, because this is a great way on a budget to increase phosphorus. Now you don't want to use a handful like this, like I did with the granular and bone meal, because this is just really concentrated. It's a 0,45,0. So what I would do is just sprinkle a little bit right on top. And I'm going to do that in these right here, in the 6 containers right here, kind of an experiment. So I'll finish that up. I want to see if the addition of these fertilizers here make any difference with growing. I primarily use these for potatoes, for sweet potatoes in my larger containers, but I just wanted to show you that. This is triple superphosphate. That's potash. You don't need to use them if you don't want to, and they can be considered organic depending on how they are sourced. So this is what I'm going to do now. It's actually starting to snow. November 30th. Get these containers set up, slowly work on all the beds in my garden, and then come spring, I'm really ready to plant. Little quick maintenance of weeding, throwing in some compost that's fully broken down, and I'm good to go. Hope this helps. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and please check out the video description. I have a new podcast that I'm doing with Callie Kim. It's called Gardening Coast2Coast, and we now have 7 episodes. Thanks for watching.